You're listening to the Yin and Yang Show, a marketing and sales conversation with Lindsay Kelly and Brian Signorelli. Strategic and tactical advice about inbound sales and marketing.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Yin and Yang Show. So happy to have your ear again. We appreciate it every single week that you listen in, so thank you so much. I'm Lindsay, coming to you live with my buddy here, Sig. How you doing today, Sig?
I'm good. I'm riding high. We got a dual day of podcast guests. Had a great conversation with Matt Dixon, the Challenger Sale and Challenger Customer this morning. And now we're on with Keenan. Can't believe he's actually joined us for the podcast, but I'm thrilled to have him on. Someone I've admired from a distance, obviously. But welcome to the show. I guess this morning for you, Keenan, and this afternoon for us.
You can't believe I'm on. Why can't you believe it?
I just think, you're
starstruck.
I am. I'm starstruck.
You get
exactly.
Starstruck. It's really cute to watch.
Yeah, I do get starstruck. What can I say?
Dude, look, I do my best. This is what I love to do, right? And so I will do almost any show until I have no time left. If the people take the time to get to know me and follow me and engage, my pleasure. Like, it's my pleasure. It's the asshats who just drop out of the sky that I've never heard of and say, hey, can you be on my show? I'm like, I'm on LinkedIn every freaking day. I'm on Insta every fucking day. I've never heard of you, and now you want me to do something for you? Really? Like, I make it as easy as possible. So, no, it's my pleasure. My pleasure.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, it is great to have you on. I'm really, I've watched a bunch of your, LinkedIn videos and seen your, a bunch of your content, and I just love the energy you bring to the table. And I think our show could use a little bit of that every now and again. Not to say we don't have good energy, but I mean, just extra dose of energy.
This is like an adrenaline shot of energy.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. It really is. So I'm amped up. I'm ready to jump in.
Good.
Very cool.
I'm excited. Thank you, guys.
So a little bit about Keenan, guys, and I want you to tell the full story, but you can find Keenan. He's the founder of asalesguy.com, and he also has a book called Not Taught. Fantastic book that I think just goes way beyond applying to folks in sales. It goes just to applying to folks in business and in their own personal life. But I want you to tell us a little bit, Keenan, about the story. And don't call him Jim Keenan. Only people who don't know him call him Jim. Call him Keenan. But he's going to tell us a little bit about how he got started. I really want to hear about, your roots as a young, high-level salesperson. What drove you to start that blogging every day, and kind of that journey, if you could give us that quick overview.
Yeah. So look, I've always been kind of a sales guy. I was the kid who always figured out how to get everybody in the neighborhood to play the game I wanted to play or go to the park I wanted to go to. Like, I was pretty much a narcissistic, selfish kid, and I wanted to do what I wanted to do. So I got really good at convincing people to do my bidding and to do my shit. I like to say I'm the Tom Sawyer, of today. If you've ever read the book Tom Sawyer, you know how it starts, right? So if you don't, go fucking read the book and educate yourself with some good literature. But anyways, I'm like the Tom Sawyer in the beginning of the book. It was sort of really in me. But the story you want to get, and I'll get to as quickly as possible, is I started selling in 1996, and I was selling chamber memberships, $500, whatever. 3 years later, and 3 different companies later, I was the vice president of sales for a telecom company. I had $300 million in revenue responsibility, and I had 125 salespeople around the country. So it went like that. Well, they sold managed modem, and when, remember the dial-up, if you want to get on the internet? They were crushing it when you had to dial in, but the minute high speed came out, they didn't have an high speed offering. So we went from high to low and basically went bankrupt, didn't have a job. And what happened was I couldn't find a job to pick up where I left off because I had 3 years of my resume. Like, that was it. So anybody else who had 300 million in revenue responsibility and 125 people nationwide were 40, 45, 50, 15, 20 years experience on the resume. I couldn't compete. So it took me almost a year to find another job, and I had to go back a step, and I was like, this is bullshit. So by 2009, I was like, I'm not competing like this anymore. So I decided to start a blog, and the simple objective, this was only objective I had, it was super simple. If I can write blog posts about how to run sales teams, how to manage sales teams, what's important in sales, and I can get 1,000 people maybe to read it, If I ever need a job, I can just go to the blog and say, hey, I'm looking for a job. And 1,000 people who've been reading my stuff would be like, hey, he's pretty smart. Let's give him, might be able to help me out. 2 years later, I've got tens of thousands of people reading it, people reaching out to me saying, hey, Keenan, can you help me with this? Can you help us with that? I read this. And next thing you know, a sales guy, company's born, a sales guy consulting and recruiting is born. And 7 years later, I'm still doing it. So there you have it.
Yep, that's the quick and dirty version.
Wait a second. So you were doing this in 2009. So let me point out. I'm gonna sort of date myself a little bit, but so 2003 or 4, I get an email from my dad. I'm in college at this point, and he says, all it says is my dad. He's worked in financial services his whole life. He worked for Wells Fargo. He's a bullshitter. And he sends me this email, and he types in all caps when he sends emails, okay? And his email says, hey, Bri, I don't know if you know anything about this, but I think this blog stuff is going to be a big deal. And I never talked to him about it anymore. Like, I didn't really know what it was at the time, but I'm just thinking, like, 2009, that was pretty early to actually kind of jump into blogging. So where did that kind of come from? Because that wasn't considered common, I don't think.
Great question. So I always say, look, people got to start journeys and pay the fuck attention, because the journey may not take you where you want to go, but you have to pass shit on the way. And if you remember that shit, you can do something with it. So 2004, roughly, I started a company called Create Buzz. I still love this idea. I should try it started again. It was freaking awesome. And basically what Create Buzz did was it aggregated content from social media content from all over the web. Like, you would sign up and it would aggregate your content, or you would put your content in based on, what do you want to call them? Channels. So if you were into mountain biking, you join the mountain biking channel and you put all your mountain biking content in there. And our mom's group was huge. If you're in a mom's group, you would put all your content there. And what would happen is each channel you went into, it would show the top 8 photos, the top 8 videos, the top 8 blog posts, the top 8 in that specific interest, right? But then what would happen is you move forward. Let's say you go from dirt bikes, you'd go into sports, and then sports you'd go, I can't remember what it was, into something else, and then the home page. And so the whole point was to create a way to get the best content that people can find it by interest and overall. And so while we were building that whole thing, the name of the company was Create Buzz, and the logo guy, like Tony the Tiger, what do you call him? The mascot.
The mascot, yeah.
Yes, the mascot was an ant with the microphone. And we stole that from Chris Anderson's The Long Tail when he said the ants have microphones. And our whole premise was, you get someone who's not known, but if they create a good piece of content through Create Buzz, it could make its way to the home page and everybody could see it. And so while we were building, I started blogging as the Ant-Man to just try to build, awareness of the site and get everything going. And that was in 2004, and it worked. So when we launched the site, we had all of these users that we didn't have to go try to get when the site launched. And we came in second in Mashable's Web Awards for the best new social media site. So when it failed, I had in my head the power of blogging. And I had to get a job when that failed. And I was like, all right, fuck it. This is how I'm going to do it.
Really interesting. Just when you said that 2009, I'm just like, how did he know? How did he come across that? I thought there was maybe more to that. So thanks for sharing that background detail.
But the key I want people to take away with is you got to pay attention. This is the problem with most people, and you're not going to like it. And some people are going to hang up and never listen to your show again. But half of you out there, maybe more than half of you, are just jerks to yourself. You don't pay attention. You go through life expecting someone to spell the whole goddamn thing out for you, or you argue why you shouldn't do it, or it's hard, or I've never seen it. And you sit back and you wait for everybody else to do it, and then you're like, oh shoot, I probably should have done that earlier. You just have to pay attention. That's the key. Life drops it in your lap more times than you realize, but you're not open to it. You're not open to seeing it, and that's the key piece right there. It makes me mad because people miss out in life.
I love that.
Yeah, he's very passionate about that.
Hang up if you don't believe it.
Hugely passionate. Like, I have a really good friend who is a absolute dog fanatic. Like this woman like she'll be up all night long trying to find a home for a dog that's in a kill shelter that's about to get killed, and try to find one in a non-kill shelter, right? Then she goes to work, eyes all red and exhausted to do her stupid telecom job, which she really doesn't like. And 5 years ago, I begged her to start a blog, right? She has thousands of Facebook followers that take her advice, but she doesn't do anything. I said, start a blog, do this. And for all I know, you'll be on freaking TLC as the second dog whisperer. She never did it. She didn't do it. She's still working for the stupid telecom company, still spending nights trying to save one dog at a time as opposed to hundreds or thousands of dogs at the time. That drives me crazy because she can't get those 5 years back.
When it's not too late, what are you doing to get her to do it now?
I gave up. I get tired. 5 years is my limit. I give up.
You can't care any more than people care themselves, you know?
Amen. I love it.
Tough lesson to learn.
Yeah.
So I was telling Keenan before the show, I just finished listening to his book and, listening to the passion and a lot, he has a lot of great pieces. That was one that you just shared. That was one that you had shared in the book as well, which I love. But one of the things that I thought was great about Chris Brogan's intro was he said, Keenan is the guy that rips the Band-Aid off. So if you guys haven't figured it out yet, he tells it like it is. And he makes no apologies for it, which I love. So, and if you're, if your ears are hurting from the cursing, I'm sorry, but I love the passion in it. So I was like, nope, you have no handcuffs, go for it. So apologies to folks who, I should have warned them in the beginning. But I want to ask you a funny question before I start asking serious questions. So one of the things that I notice about you is every time I see you, and I know it's not the same shirt, but you have a brand to you. And I want you to talk about it because you're always wearing a red shirt that has some kind of plaid-ish component. Now they're different shirts. And I want to talk about like you have this, there's no way if I didn't see that shirt and somebody said, whose shirt is this? I wouldn't say, oh, that's Keenan's. Like every time I see you, but I love it because it's a consistency. It's like Simon Cowell with his black t-shirt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know, like I wasn't a marketing guy, but I understand the power of brand. I understand the power of distinction. And so, again, paying attention, Jill Conrath is a friend of mine and we used to go to a lot of conferences, together. And it just so happened, I used to wear plaid shirts just because I liked them. But then at one particular conference, she's like, do you have any other shirts besides that red plaid? I'm like, yeah, I have a whole bunch of different shirts. She goes, well, it seems like every time you're at a conference, you're wearing that red plaid shirt. And I'm like, I don't know, maybe it's coincidence, maybe it's not. And then she goes, it's kind of like your brand. Bing, bing. Like the minute she said, it's kind of like your brand, boom, I ran with it. So then every time I was in public for videos or for speaking engagements or whatever, it's my red plaid shirt and my red Pumas with the white fat laces.
Yep. Yeah, I saw you with your suitcase at Inbound. You were too far away for me to yell to you, but I was like, look, he's wearing his brand. Yes. And if you go to his website, you'll see the same thing. You'll see him, it's consistent across the board. There's a show that you were on. It looks like it was you and Jill Rowley and a couple other folks having a conversation. I'm like, yep, there it is. That's his brand.
Yep.
So I love that.
Stick to it. Absolutely. And thus the last name as well. I mean, I do have a first name, but people, as I got older, they always called me Keenan. I liked it better than, I like it better, but it just sounded cooler than Jim, which is kind of old school. And then I was like, wait, we'll keep this too. And we'll run with this. So it's all part of an identity that people don't forget. They knew who I am and I can build on it.
Love it. Love it. So now that I brought your website up, I want to talk a little bit about it because, yes, it is your personal brand, but it's your lead generation machine. And I noticed there's a lot of video, there's a lot of content. Talk to me a little bit about how you come up with what you're going to produce for that and what is converting the best for you.
Oof, what is converting the best? You're probably asking the wrong person. I need Brady for that. I turned most of my marketing over to Brady. She's doing a great job. Look, okay. So as far as the static content, I just see that as a necessary evil. It's people want to understand what you do. They want to understand what a sales guy does, what our consulting practice is and who we're about. They want to understand the recruiting practice. So all of that, I don't want to poo-poo it, but it's like table stakes. It's a necessary evil. You got to put it out there. So I do put that out there. And if people want to know, they can go read it. But the pieces that I think are the most valuable is all the content. So we have a thing called the Sales Guy U. And on it, we have tons of ebooks and sales tools and videos. And I think we even have some podcasts. And that content, I believe, is most important because we're about giving. We're about educating and teaching. Like, I'm a big fan when I work with my clients, I talk about becoming a teaching organization, not a sales organization. The more you can prepare your sales team and or marketing to teach your customer things they need to know, they're going to align with you or connect with you because you are an expert in their field, that you have credibility for them. So I started doing that in 2000. Let me see. Hold on. 2011, 2012. I created a Sales Guy U, and it was just me at the time, and I'd only have I'd have 1 or 2 consultant clients. So I would go to a Starbucks and I'd sit there and I'd write an entire ebook in about a day, and then I'd post that sucker and I'd do another one, and then as I created more and more content like that, that created more awareness, more downloads, and it just went from there.
Where do the ideas come from? This is something that we talked with Matt Dixon about a little bit, and what you're talking about now, about adding value, bringing learnings, teaching prospects. I feel like a lot of people talk about that, but I also think that very few people know what it means or know how to do it. So what Matt refers to that as insight selling. That the way most people are selling today is still mostly, at least in complex B2B sales, it's mostly through these kind of like big open-ended questions that get the prospect kind of annoyed, first of all, and then second, maybe gets them talking. And then as soon as the prospect or buyer says something that the sales rep can kind of pounce on or tie back to their company's product or service or solution, then they kind of make their pitch at that point. Where he's saying things should be different is that the seller should actually lead with insight and say, look, the way most businesses like you that I talk to are doing this thing is X. Sounds like the thing that you guys are missing is Y. The best companies solve it Z way. So my question to you, without beating around the bush too much, is how do you kind of come up with the ideas or the insights or the teachings that you want to play back to the businesses that you work with? Or how do you coach your clients, team members, the managers, the reps, et cetera? How do you teach them how to actually create value instead of just talking about creating value?
Fantastic question, young brother. And it comes down to one thing. The problem or problems or set of problems. Look, I don't care what it is you sell. I don't care what industry you're in. You solve some set of problems. So what I tell people to do is you go write all those problems down, and then you start creating content to tell people how to solve the problems. Like, it's that simple. If you go to my website, it's like How to Hire A Players is one of our ebooks. Well, why did I write that thing? Because I know a lot of companies struggle with how do I hire the right people? So if someone's looking to hire the right person and they run a search and they find my ebook, I win, right? So, I mean, it's really that simple. I mean, shame on me. It's been so long since I remember half my ebooks. But I just think about what problem are they struggling with, and then I write about the problem.
Yep. So, right? Question, I guess, and this is a good point to kind of dovetail, in between like the sales and marketing. I think some schools of thought would say that marketing should lead that. Other people, myself included, on the sales side of things at least, I argue that salespeople should be writing content. Where do you stand on that? Like, what do you have an opinion on the extent to which content creation or writing the answers to these challenges, for example, should that be mostly marketing driven, sales driven, something else?
So no, I think it's both, but there is a line of delineation. Great question. I think when it comes to the downloadable branded content that you want someone to engage with, whether it's tools, whether it's ebooks, whether it's videos, or whatever, that's branded and well produced and created, that should be marketing. Sales doesn't have time to do that shit, right? But when it's the one-to-one, or it's the off-the-cuff, or it's the something quick, then sales can do that. I absolutely argue that salespeople should be creating content. I put something out called, it was a horrible name, but I thought about the last second, called the 12-week challenge on LinkedIn. And this is what I told every salesperson to do. I said, look, you need to write a blog post a week solving a different problem that your product or service solves. So you just don't be stupid and don't sell your product, but figure out what problems that your customers struggle with that your product or service can fix. write about those problems, one a week for 12 weeks. And then every time somebody likes it, you go, and if you're not connected to them, you click on them, you click connect, and then you say, hey, thanks for liking this so-and-so. I really appreciate it. Nice to meet you. Let's get connected. Every time someone comments, you respond to their comment, and then you go back and you connect with them and say the same thing. You do that every week for 12 weeks, and I guarantee you'll get a lead or two out of that.
All right, so 2 things with that. First of all, one of the things that I'm constantly telling the sales folks when I first walk in the door is every time you answer a question via email to a prospect or a customer, please blind CC me, because that is a blog post.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, like
Brilliant.
if they're asking you, they couldn't find the answer somewhere else.
Brilliant.
So I love that. But and the second part of that is I love that 12-week challenge. But what if they're not a good writer? Would you suggest, as you've been doing, moving to the video format?
Yes. I said write because I think most people are better writers than they are in video. Believe it or not, in my opinion, video is harder for the average person.
Really?
Oh yeah.
I want way you to easier.
Yeah, but I can see your energy, right? But I want you to think about all the videos that you watch. It is hard to carry energy, and it's hard to get someone to pay attention to you and get a message across. Right? It's not easy for a lot of people. Yes, to answer your question, absolutely. If you're better at video, do video.
Yeah. Then and that's a good segue into like what are some of the best things that are happening with sales folks that you're seeing? Like, I love what you're doing. It's great. What are some other really great things that you're seeing sales reps do today to really showcase that they're not only an industry expert, but that they're offering insight?
You know, the truth of the matter is I'm hearing a lot of talk about what people should doing, but salespeople still really, in the main, really aren't doing very much. It's still more of the same old shit. You know, reach out to someone, say, hey, I'd like to connect with you, and then pound them in the face with some stupid, pitch that you've got some product you want them to see. I mean, I'm not really seeing salespeople. A lot of salespeople embrace social to build a brand and identity around what they do. I mean, they're trying, more and more every day. And based on the challenge I put out, I really do. There's some people out there, like I'm getting hit up, like, Keenan, I'm doing your challenge and it worked. And Keenan, I'm doing your challenge and it didn't work. Can you help me? And I go read their blog post. I'm like, oh my God, this is why it's not working. So some are trying, but still no. Salespeople are still stuck pushing the sale, trying to trying to drive the quota because their managers are pushing them, and the same old culture still exists. It just still exists.
They're lazy. I mean, I hate to say it, but there are some that are just flat out lazy ever since I started. So I just moved from being a HubSpot agency owner into taking a position at a global corporation. Mm-hmm. The amount of emails I am getting, like cold emails off of LinkedIn, and then they're finding my email directly. Mm-hmm. They have taken zero time to do anything but pound me over and over and over again with the same message.
Because you just had a trigger event. That's why. Because
I just had a trigger.
Well, titles, and that's a LinkedIn Navigator trigger. I guarantee
it's hard. It's horrible. It's horrible. Whatever it is, it's horrible. And I'm sitting here going, I now am able to put myself in the shoes of some of these folks who are like, I have no time. Like, I can't tell you the amount of time I've lost moving into corporate America.
Amen. That's why I stay out of that crazy hell.
So it's really hard. I'm actually loving it. I've never worked for a global company though. So, trying to have meetings with people in Tel Aviv is always interesting. But it's true. It's like you have taken zero time to even look at my profile or connect with me in any way, shape, or form. So I'm just kind of trying to bring home that point that you're making to the sales reps out there. Knock it off, please. From somebody who is on the receiving end at least 5 times a day, it's not effective.
You're easy too. No pun. Didn't mean it that way, right? You're easy.
Well, you don't know. You never know.
Right? Because you have a podcast. Like if you did nothing else, if all you have to do is a podcast, and I know that before I even reach out to you, I will sit and listen to 3 or 4 of those podcasts. Like, you're giving me the information. You give me the answers to the test. But yet they don't have the time to go find the answers to the test. They just jump right in. It blows my mind.
I've had one one person do that. I listened to this episode and this episode. I really liked this aspect of it. When you were talking about this, I thought maybe this thing that I have might help you. Holy crap. I actually had a meeting with them.
Damn straight.
I was like, you got it, man. Like
Done.
you listened to at least 2, maybe 3 episodes. I can't remember what it was.
Yep.
Put in the time, do your homework. Don't just blast me with stuff.
I wrote a blog post ages ago, and I'm probably stand by. I'm probably gonna do a video on it. And it says there is no reason not to know me or for me not to know you. So if you reach out to me on LinkedIn or in my email, and I've never heard of you, and you're asking for something, all I can think is you're a dumbass. I am the most outward person in the world. You have everything you need. All you have to do is like comment to a couple of blog posts or respond to a couple of videos, and I know who you are, and I might be actually willing to listen to you, but you don't? Oh, it's like, go away. Click, delete, you're out.
Yeah, it's tough. So I know poor Sig sitting down there going, yep, seen all this, done all that.
No, I think you're hitting on a really important point that, you know, and this is one of the things I talk about, you know, really I thought about as a sales rep. I've thought about, because I've been a buyer on the other side of this before. This is things I've tried to coach my team members into. I said, look, I basically said, if you're selling the way that, you know, 80-90% of other people are selling, what do you think makes you different? Nothing makes you different. So if you are doing things that are just perpetuating bad behavior that buyers have have definitively tuned out, and is going to guarantee that they are not going to open your email, they're not going to respond to you because they're getting 100 other emails like that every single day, you have to do something that is unexpected, and not unexpected in a trick way or in a trick sense, you know, or clickbaity type sense. But you have to actually take that time to figure out what matters to them, how to craft, and I'm not saying to write the Iliad, okay? But I'm saying find a couple things to relate to them, because oftentimes, like you said, Keenan, the answers to the test are right in front of you. It's just a matter of whether or not you're going to take 5 seconds to take a look and see what they are, and then use those to try to start a conversation with them. Is it going to work every time? No, but I guarantee you it's going to work way better than just blind mass emailing the identical email to everyone, and the only personalization you do is just the first name token in the opener of the email.
Yeah. Look, I help salespeople be lazy. If you want to be lazy and you don't want to go through the work and try to find something individual, because not everybody is out there like you, Sig, or like you, Lindsay, or like myself, so it's harder, then this is what you do. Start with the problem. Notice the theme I got going on here? Look, when every one of our products and services was created at the bar on the bar napkin or in the garage, right? There was a problem. They didn't start with a feature. They didn't start, hey, I got this really cool feature. Hey. There was a problem. Someone recognized that the market had a problem, that there were people out in the world who didn't like something, or something bothered them, or something hurt, or something was uncomfortable. And we said, hey, we can make that go away. So as a salesperson, if nothing else, know the 5, 6, or 7 problems, and they cannot be high-level problems. You like a little more revenue? No. Get to the gritty. And say, hey, I don't know, I'm making this shit up on the fly. HVAC. Do you find that your HVAC leaks, breaks often around this period of time, or takes up too much room in your cooler and costs you this issue? If so, I think I can solve that for you. So you could, if you want to blast emails, at least blast that to people who could have that problem, because if I have that problem, I don't care if I know you or not. It's like, okay, I'll talk to you. What if I just send you some students says, hi, I'm Keenan with HVAC ABC, and we're proud owners of this, and we help you do that. And I'd like 20 minutes of time to understand your problems. I click out. Right? Just, it's right there. You know what problems your shit fixes. Talk about it.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yep. That's a hard conversation to have, though.
I don't get it.
I mean, internally, I like coming from the marketing person walking in going, what is a differentiator? Well, we've been in business. No, that's nice. So have they. What about this? Why did it? And finally you dig down to the root of it. And I'm like, there it is. And they're like, that's not that big of a deal. I'm like, it is to them. It is to them. You make more modules than the other person because it's easier to fit this little tiny difference in this one module. This tiny nuance makes this guy's life easier. That's a huge deal to that guy.
And then define, how does it make their life easier?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a hard exercise to go through, but and it's painful. It is, because people are just they fundamentally don't want to sit there and try to figure all that out.
So I have a really simple table in the sales resource section of Sales Guy U, and it's called problem identification. And it's a really simple table. So you want to pull it down. The exercise is you list all the problems that your product or service solves, right? Then next to each problem, you list the impact of that problem to the organization. And then in the next one, you list the root cause of why the problem exists, right? You fill that whole thing out and you put that on the salesperson's desk. Now they can talk about the problem, how that problem affects the company, and then why that problem exists in the first place, or the root cause, and how they can make and address that root cause. Change the whole ball game.
I love that.
It
Great.
does.
It's great. It's great to get people to go through.
Changes everything. So what do you think sales is going to look like in the next 5 years? That's always the hardest one, I know.
Yeah, it's like, are we getting more of the same? Because, I think you're making a good, you've touched on this a bit, Keenan. You're making this point that, a lot of people are still lazy. You're not seeing enough of the change. I think we've talked about this a little bit, Lindsay, that there's frankly just not enough pain. There's not enough pain to see that transformation yet. And I think what we're kind of wondering is, what's your take on it? What do you think is stopping these? We're talking about all of these kind of best practices, but you only see maybe 5 or 10% of reps adopting this stuff. So the question is, are we wrong, or are they wrong, or is it not about that? And the question is, what does the future hold? And that's a year, 3 years, 30 years, whatever. What's the cliff you think we're headed toward, if any?
I look, at the end of the day, the fundamental buying method or psychology, or whatever you want to call it, is never going to change. Okay. And that whole thing, it's actually the core of my next book, Gap Selling, which will be out in the summer. At the end of the day, sales is about change. Okay. I'm in a situation now, which I call the current state. For whatever particular reason, I either am unhappy in that spot, or I see an opportunity somewhere else, and I'm contemplating change, or somebody gets me to contemplate change. And what I'm thinking about, or what pulls me somewhere else, is the future state. Okay. So the difference between the current state and the future state is the gap. Okay. So that whole concept of how people, either by themselves, as a group, or as an organization, transition from the current state to the future state, and how a salesperson influences that transition, because that's our job as salespeople, is to influence. That's never going to change. What is going to change, I think, is a lot of the low-hanging fruit where the gap is small. So in other words, when I need to buy TP, I'm out, I need new TP, that's a small gap. Okay. Unless I'm home by myself and I don't have any, and I got to say, Alexa, I need TP now. And I got to wait for some cat to put it on my porch minutes later with a drone, right? So
Ride the drone.
Right. And so this is what I think could absolutely change the world is because we can order things, right? This isn't B2B, but this is still selling. I think one of the biggest things you might have is, because of things like Alexa and this voice thing, I think we're going to start seeing marketplaces pop up where I say, Alexa, I want TP. And now all the things are going to start competing on price for that for me, because I don't have to search for it anymore, right? So people can create AI robots or things like that to get me the cheapest price, or to get it to me in a way that will give them an advantage. So that transactional stuff, AI is going to own that. And I think it's going to be a really interesting marketplace, because it's just voice. And so rather than me having to do the research, someone's going to say, wait, he says TP. And before it's Charmin, I'm going to tell Alexa to say, hey, tell him to go with, what is another one? Cloud Soft, whatever that shit is. And go with that first, because we'll get it 20% cheaper, right? I think that whole transactional piece is going to change. On the more complicated stuff, you still are going to need a salesperson who knows how to influence, to help the complexity. Because when you start broadening the gap, and I'm selling a product that costs $50,000, $100,000, or $10,000 a month, that could impact my revenue, or could impact my customer service, or could impact my operations, I'm not doing that shit with a robot. It's just not happening. You may get to me through AI. You may get me to have the meeting. So SDRs could be in a little bit of trouble, but there is absolutely no way I'm doing that by myself. It's not happening.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. We were going back and forth with Scott Brinker from Chief MarTech and now of HubSpot about that, and just kind of the logic that's going to be built into some of this stuff. But like you said, there, that influence that's not going to be there. I was talking about like lead nurturing, and I would say, hey Alexa, why don't you set up a lead nurturing campaign for me to do this, this, and this? And he's like, no, she's going to tell you what's the best path.
Yes.
But then once they cross that line, that influence, that is something that Alexa and Google Home just don't have.
And they'll never have. It's interesting. I was working with a really, really big multinational chip manufacturer. I don't think you could guess who it is. So, and as I was working with them, we were doing a massive amount of evaluation of the team and how the team was selling. And one of the things that transitioned the culture was they were order takers, but they called them salespeople, right? They called them inside salespeople, but they were order takers. And I said, listen, you can call them whatever the hell you want, and you can continue to do what you're doing. But when you look at the pay that you're paying these inside sales reps and you compare it to what they're actually doing, taking orders, they're influencing nothing. They're not influencing anything. They're not influencing net gains. They're not influencing upsells. They're just taking what the customer says and gives it to them. They build a little bit of relationship. I said, so you could turn around and cut that entire department operational cost by 35% and actually pay them like order takers because they're not influencing anything. And that's the value of a really good salesperson, the ability to influence the decision based on knowledge, understanding, awareness where the customer wants to go, awareness with the customer's business objectives, awareness with the existing inhibitors of what's preventing the customer from getting there. Your ability to influence that defined you as a salesperson. Too few salespeople influence.
I got one question for you on that specifically.
Yep.
I agree with you. However, there is some conversation that I'd be willing to bet you've seen that's going around right now that says one of the fundamental problems with selling today is the way that salespeople are compensated. And that in order for them to truly be able to help somebody, they cannot be biased by getting paid on someone buying something from them, and instead need to be compensated in a fundamentally different way if we are truly solving to help somebody get not just any solution or your solution, but get the best or the right solution to whatever problem it is that they have. Now, you could argue on the one hand, it's like, well, look, that's just competition. And frankly, if I convince somebody to go with my product versus someone else's, does it mean that it's the best fit? Maybe, maybe not. Is that a horrible thing? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. So question for you is, do you think that the commission structure, commission-based nature of sales is here to stay or not? And maybe a second part to that question would be, to what extent do you think that negatively influences the kind of sales outcomes or decisions that are made, between buyers and sellers today?
Fantastic question. And I do not believe it's the commission structure.
Oh, tell me more.
I believe it's the culture. I believe it's the culture of get the number at all costs, so that I, as a salesperson, if I'm working a lead, and let's just say I ask a number of really good discovery questions, and I determine that based on your answers that I'm not the best solution for you, that your number one business challenge is, I'm making this up, but using a past customer, is the ability to offer class registration as part of the overall solution. And 50% of your business comes from class registration. And I have a kludgy class registration process that's going to make it worse for you, right? And I know my competition has a really, really good one, and where I'm better than the competition, that only makes up 20% of your revenue. And so therefore the value of my product is diminished. In most cultures, I can't say to you, I don't think this is a good fit. I can't, because what the sales manager will do, well, we've got this and we've got that, and they'll start focusing on all the features of the product. It's like, but they don't need those features. Well, then you need to explain to them why they do. No, I don't. I understand their business. And their business doesn't advocate for this. It's the culture that doesn't let salespeople walk away from a deal and be held in positive regard.
So do you have some tips? I mean, if like we got a sales manager, sales leader, CEO listening in, and they want to, and they're saying, yeah, crap, or I guess I can say shit on this episode. It's explicit.
You can say shit on this episode.
They say shit. That's us. We do that. We have a fucking horrible culture. Any tips on, why they should care about changing it, or how they even go about maybe affecting some of that change?
It's get rid of the stupid old swinging dick sales culture that we brought in from the 1950s. Seriously, it drives me freaking insane. Hire some women sales leaders for starters, okay? Because I don't see this in women's sales organizations as much as I do. And look, I played football, so fuck you if you think you're a badass, because I'll pop you in the mouth. I spent my life as 50 years old skiing, major ski, playing in the park and big mogul skiing, so I can be as aggro as you can. So let's go, bring it, okay? Stop being aggro, okay? Stop being that we are the kick-ass sales team and we'll kick everybody's butt and we'll make our number no matter what. No, put the customer first. Build a sales culture that is a teaching organization. Build a sales culture who prides itself in maximizing the value of your solution to your customers. Build a sales culture that puts the adequate time and effort in understanding what a appropriate quota is, not we did 100 million, now we'll do 120 million because we're going to grow 20% year over year. How did you come up with that? Don't be the sales organization that the guy who did 150% one year because he landed a whale, and now next year you make him do 200% because you pick him up from the 150. No, he's not going to get that whale again. Remember where he is. Give him the 100% again, or give him 105. But know where it's coming from. Put in the due diligence. Stop just ramming stuff around and making people do that. Add some sophistication to your sales organization. Use the data. Put the customer first. That's how you get there. Just get rid of all that old school machismo, super high level competition, we're badasses stuff. Get rid of it.
So 2 points I'd plug on that. One is, I don't know if you've seen the research from Gong. I think it's from Gong, where they arguably definitively prove that women are in fact better salespeople than men.
I've said that forever. I've always hired sales women. Which is
awesome. I mean, I'm speaking from a point of view where my very first sales manager was a woman. Her name's Danielle Hertzberg. She goes by Danny Hertzberg. She's now the head of SMB sales at Slack, so she's a badass. Taught me everything I knew, and she was a stone cold killer. She was #1 rep at HubSpot for the whole time she was there, #1 manager, and I'd be willing to bet she's #1 at whatever she's going to do. So one plug there. You should check out that research. Not you, Keenan, but anyone who hasn't seen it listening in, should check out that research on Gong. Of which of the sexes is a superior salesperson. I think it's pretty interesting. And I'd encourage you to read exactly why. I'm not going to give that away yet, but go and read the research. I don't resell for Gong, so no worries on that. And then the second bit is, I think that the point you're making too is about this kind of machismo and, driving product, down someone's throat just for the sake of doing more, going back to saying, tell them why those features fit their problems instead of you telling me that like they don't need it. The point I try to impress upon people, and it's not an easy one all the time, but I say, look, it's not about what you're getting today as a result. It's about what you're missing in the future. Because every time you sell somebody something that frankly they don't need, you're going to miss out on, and I'm not saying, referrals is a predictable way to grow your business. It's not, but it's one way to grow your business. And frankly, I think that, the customer kind of portion of the sales and marketing funnel is growing, where businesses are going to have to be more and more reliant on that. They always have been. I think they always will be. So think about not about what you're getting today, but think about the negative brand equity you're creating, or the brand equity erosion, or whatever the hell you want to call it. Think about that negativity you're creating, or at a minimum, what you're missing out on. It's the same idea with why I tell people not to do, kind of spammy email marketing to a list that you bought from someone. As I say, look, it's not about the people it's not about the 1% of people who respond back and say, yeah, I'll take a meeting. It's about the 99% of people who got that email, are pissed off, and will never talk to you now as a result. That's what you should be concerned about.
Boom. You got it, baby.
Just a thought.
It was a brilliant thought.
That was brilliant. I think we're just about out of time for this episode, but I wanted to kind of give you a chance, Keenan. Are there key messages that you want to leave the audience with, or things that you wish we would have asked that you're just dying to tell us?
I stink at that. I'm a counterpuncher. You pick another question or one last one or something you want to know. I'm terrible. I get so much in my brain that it's not, something doesn't trigger it. It just sits there like a trap waiting to be triggered. Then it comes out full bore.
And I think we've seen that today. I think anyone seeing the video component, I think this has been awesome episode we've done, arguably one of the best we've ever done, certainly across the lifespan of the show. So I've had a great time. I could talk with you for a long time, Keenan.
Oh, I know. We could do this all day.
Yeah, really appreciate
you. Have one closing question, Lindsay?
I do. So I love the point that you just made before, that you're 50 years old, you ski, you can hit somebody, don't use that as an excuse. And you talk a lot in your book about, if you're over 40, you're not going to like this. So leave us with a little bit of that. Dispel the myth that if you're over 40, this social world and this online digital thing is never going to work for me. Please dispel that.
So I have, okay. So you did tap into something. So I have been processing this whole concept, particularly in today's world, of ageism. Okay. And I hear people talking about how they can't get hired when they're past 45 or 50, and either they're too experienced and they don't want them, or they feel that they don't have enough they're overqualified and they don't want them, or they feel they're out of touch with the newer stuff, et cetera. And I have wanted, I'm sure people are going to get fired up. I am on the verge in wanting to a certain degree, blame the victim here. And now, as a brother, I'm the father of 3 daughters, right? And as a dad who's gay and came out when I was in high school, I get sexism, racism, homophobia. I get that stuff, right? And there were really people who do jacked up stuff to people and prevent them from getting jobs or treat them differently. And so I don't want to say that ageism is different than that, but a lot of ways I want to say it's different. Ageism is often driven by our behaviors, not the actual number, right? So if you are struggling or feeling that people are treating with ageism, take a good look at yourself. Like, what are you conveying to people as an older person? Are you not actually up to date and engaged in the newest technologies and social and the newest sales methodologies? Do you present yourself as old and stodgy? And do you not read books regularly? Are you resistant to coaching? Do you hold on to the old adage, I've been doing this for 50 years, I know what I'm doing? Like, why is that happening? Now, because granted, I got decent genes and most people don't think I look 50, but I'm 50 years old. And I can promise you right now, the last thing I'm worried about, God forbid I got to go back into corporate America, but the last thing I'm worried about is that someone's not going to hire me because of my age. Like that nobody sees me that way. That's a choice. And I know people who are older, that we said that Larry Levine, I think he's in his 50s. That guy doesn't come across, he looks a little older. Sorry, Larry, I love you. But
he does, I know.
He looks a little, but Larry, he's got a youthful energy and he's completely ahead of the curve in what's happening. No one's going to not hire him because he's whatever. We got to stop. Like, you're given a chance, unlike a long time ago when all you had was a resume and all they saw was that age. Like, ooh, I don't know, I have nothing to counterbalance with. You have the opportunity to build your personal brand and show the world who you are. Show the world. And I think there's the perfect transition to the end. We are in the show me economy. The tell me economy is over. The tell me economy was the brochures that I would, hand you as a salesperson and tell you what we did. They were the static web pages that told you what we did. They were our resumes that told you who I was, right? Now we're in the show me economy. I can actually show you how I do my job by writing an article on how to overcome objections. I can show you how to get more leads as a HubSpot company by writing a blog post or doing an ebook on how to get more leads. Like, it's now show me. Everything is show me. If you're not participating in the show me economy, you're losing. You're losing. And I think when it comes to age, that we have an out now. We can't be pigeonholed unless we let them pigeonhole us.
That's a perfect answer. Absolutely perfect answer.
One little tidbit that came to mind when you were talking about that, Keenan. There's a quote, and I'm not trying to be cliche with quotes here, but like I've followed Notre Dame football my whole life. My dad went to Notre Dame, kind of a undying fan for better or worse. And this quote came across, I don't know, my phone, however I found it, from Lou Holtz. I think you might like this one. It's on the point that you just made. And the quote is, "Ability is what you're capable of doing. Motivation determines what you do, but attitude determines how well you do it."
Yes. Yes, 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 and yes one more time.
There you go.
That was awesome. What a great close. What a great show. We are so grateful that you spent some time with us today, Keenan. Really enjoyed having you. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. You guys
It's great having you on.
You guys were good.
Thank you. And tell the folks at home, how on earth can they find you?
You go to Sales Guy. You go there, you'll find everything. Keenan on LinkedIn, Keenan on Twitter, Jim Keenan on Instagram, because I can't get Keenan.
Ooh.
I know.
Man.
Like a 21-year-old.
Buy those rights.
I'm trying, like this 21 or 22-year-old girl named Stephanie Keenan, who's got a private account, who only has like 160 followers and like 50 posts.
Oh, man.
I can't get through to her. I'm trying. I've offered her, 4 figures, but she cannot see them or she doesn't care. I can't.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
You got to bid her up. Maybe she's trying to bid you up.
Right? If
Silence.
listening, honey, find
Brutal.
Keenan. He's
Yes.
giving money.
Yes. I've looked her up on Facebook. I just can't get through, man. I
Oh,
can't.
Ah, heartbreaking. Well, then we'll drive them to your Twitter, to your LinkedIn, and to a Sales Guy, and that's the best place to find
Yes.
you.
Yes.
So, folks, you can always find me at LV Kelly on the Twitters. You can always find Sig at Inbound Seller, right, my friend?
That's right.
That's right. And thank you again, Keenan. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And folks, until next time, keep the conversation going.
Yeah, keep talking.
You've been listening to the Yin and Yang Show, a marketing and sales conversation with Lindsay Kelly and Brian Signorelli. Join us online at yinandyang.fm.